Greetings from St. Louis, Missouri. This is the St. Louis Gateway Arch, and this appears in the movie Hambone and Hillie. This is a rather weird film. It is one of the final films of Lillian Gish, one of the most famous silent film stars of them all. In the movie, her dog has to cross the country to reunite with her, and about halfway through the film, they show up at the Gateway Arch.
Hambone and Hillie, starring Lillian Gish, Candy Clark, JSimpson, Robert Walker, and also starring the great United States. Hambone and Hillie, a special motion picture for everyone, everywhere.
The St. Louis Arch only appears briefly in the movie, but since I'm here, I do want you to take a look at it. This is one of the most recognizable landmarks in the United States. It was built to honor the city's role as gateway to the West during America's westward expansion, which is why it really makes sense that it's in this movie about this dog crossing the country. The idea for the monument began in the 30s, but they didn't start construction until the 60s, and it wasn't completed until 65, open to the public in 67. You can usually go up to the top in a weird little elevator, but it is closed today. It stands 630 feet tall, and Hambone runs right along here with another dog named Camille at about the midway point of the movie. It was just to establish that Hambone had made it about halfway across the country in his journey. Hambone and Hillie was supposed to be a gentle family movie. It was supposed to be released in 1983, and instead it became a minor disaster. It was delayed for months. It was plagued by a last-minute director swap, and it was finished by a man who had never directed a feature film before.
There is another short scene that was filmed here in St. Louis. I think it was filmed over there. So I'm going to leave the arch behind, but glad you got to take a look at it. Back to me in the basement.
Wow, that is so big. That's the arch right behind you.
Yeah, no, this is...
Is it, when you touch it, is it hot?
It's cool on this side. I think if you go during the hot parts of the day, it probably is hot to touch. But
Well, how's the weather there?
it's kind of a cool morning today.
All right, so you're going right to that other location.
I did see a food truck. I might see that on the way. But other than that, I'm going to head over there now.
All right, stay safe.
Well, thank you.
You're old, and I don't think you can defend yourself.
Fair enough.
All right, let's talk about Hambone and Hillie. I'm going to spoil this entire film. It's full of wonderful pop culture time capsule moments, and if you haven't seen it yet, let's face it, you're not going to. The film was eventually released on May 18th, 1984. In their advertising, they mentioned E.T.
Last year, the world fell in love with an extraterrestrial. This year, we're bringing everyone back down to Earth.
They also mention E.T. on the poster, and that dog is not Hambone. It's a completely different looking dog. In the movie, we first see Hambone at JFK Airport at the TWA terminal, which today is a really cool retro hotel. Hillie is flying home to Los Angeles. She had just spent some time with her grandson's family. This included Timothy Bottoms, who was in Last Picture Show, and his wife. She's played by Anne Lockhart, whose mom was June Lockhart, who was a very famous actress, who was famous for being the mom on Lassie. And I don't know if this was intentional, but we've got like a new generation of faithful coming home dogs. Hillie is worried about leaving Hambone in a crate. She says that they used to travel in an RV, and now that her husband's gone, she doesn't know what to do. And so Hambone's going to be in this crate traveling across the country. But then we see this mean lady who comes up and complains. She's got a bratty daughter who opens the cage. Hambone gets out. We get a rather lame Keystone Cops kind of chase. We see what TSA looked like prior to 9/11. So after these shenanigans, Hambone watches the plane take off, and he knows he's got to find his way back across the country. He wanders around New York. He sees Macy's. He looks at a handsome cab, and it almost seems like he wants to take a carriage ride. And then he spends the night in Times Square sleeping on a pile of playbills from the musical Cats. We get some great acting from Lillian Gish. She was not phoning this in. She was called the Iron Butterfly. This was her 102nd film. This is the only film where she plays a titular character. So we've got Hambone, his first film out, he gets in the title. She took 102 films to get there. Hambone crosses the border into New Jersey. He meets up with a truck driver played by JSimpson, Tucker the trucker. OJ sees Hambone's collar, and he knows his name is Hambone, and he knows where Hambone lives. OJ then sees a car full of ladies, so he flirts with them, and one of them flips him off. They continue trucking through Philadelphia. They go through Amish country. We do see his truck. He's driving for Digital Systems, which was a big computer company back in the day. So OJ decides to keep this dog, despite knowing that it has a collar and an owner. And he says they're going to travel together. And then he takes the collar off, and he says, Hambone, you've got to keep your past buried. And he throws the collar away. The phrase, by the way, is a little disturbing, knowing that OJ was later in a murder trial for killing his wife. In this movie, he says that his wife left him for a football coach.
One thing I learned, you got to bury the past.
He takes Hambone to a diner, but they have a sign out front that says no pets and no pinkos.
I think I'll take a hamburger, some french fries, and a big cheeseburger for my partner outside.
So he leaves Hambone outside, and Hambone takes off to continue on his journey. We get a shot of Hillie's great-grandchildren, one of which is Will Wheaton. And the coolest thing about this is they're playing Frogger on Atari. Hambone makes his way to Philadelphia, where he sees some Kentucky Fried Chicken in a trash can. But then there's another dog that sees it, so they have kind of like a showdown, like from the good, the bad, and the ugly. They end up being friends. They go into the suburbs. They run into a very young Nicole Eggert. While he's playing there, Hambone is kidnapped by some bad guys. Now we hear that they're collecting dogs to sell to some lab, and they're told the lab's only going to cut the dogs up anyway, so they're not even going to feed these dogs. The other dog tries to save Hambone, and he gets beaten with a stick. We're about 23 minutes into the movie, and it's taken this weird dark turn that I wasn't expecting. Thankfully, Nicole Eggert leads the neighborhood kids to rescue Hambone. They're all riding on BMX bikes, and all of a sudden this becomes a scene out of Rad. Hambone escapes with a female dog that we later call Camille, and they head to Springfield, Illinois, where he spends Christmas with the skipper from Gilligan's Island.
And now, I'll read from our Bible. Now when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of...
So the skipper's daughter is played by the girl who was Carrie on Little House on the Prairie, and she gives Hambone's girlfriend Camille a necklace with a little cross on it. The two dogs take off on a steamship. They end up in St. Louis, and there's the scene where they run by the Gateway Arch. And then they show up in a nearby area, and I'm going to see if I've made it there.
All right, hang on. I got it. It's right up ahead here, right past this intersection, I think. I don't know what this is, a dumpster? Whoa! I found it. You can see the arch in the distance, and this is where they were.
That's it.
The dogs are in Laclade's Landing. Not much happens here. They get fed, and we do see this guy's tidy whities. He shoos the dogs away. They run right out of here and out of St. Louis. Well, after that, there's an adorable scene where the two dogs chase bunnies around in a field, and then Camille gets hit by a car and dies. I was shocked. Like this, the whole movie collapsed for me. And then it gets worse. Hambone stays with her corpse all night. Robert Walker shows up as a hobo, and he buries Camille for Hambone, and then he takes off with Hambone, and they travel together for a little while, and then they come to like a fork in the road, and Hambone's like, I gotta go that way, which I don't know how Hambone can read street signs. This is so episodic. Hambone just keeps meeting new people, kind of spending time with them. He doesn't really seem to solve any of their problems, but they kind of get him a little further on his journey. He meets with like a local law enforcement that has a couple dogs. The local cop also has a pregnant wife, and he's telling his wife that a couple prisoners escaped last night, and they're very violent and murderous, but don't worry, they're going the opposite direction. They're not going to cause any problems here. And of course, they show up and cause problems here. We get some rather violent scenes, including a guy getting a pitchfork stuck through him. The guys break into the house. They're going to kill the pregnant woman because they say, hey, we know who your husband is, and this is finally our revenge. And then Hambone saves the day and delivers the baby. Hambone then takes off. He goes, sees the Grand Canyon. He sees Monument Valley. He meets up with another family briefly, and then he continues his journey off to California. On the way, he stumbles into Las Vegas. We get some great shots of vintage Las Vegas with some of the old casinos and the neon signs that aren't there anymore. Suddenly, Hambone is riding on the back of a motorcycle through the desert. Now, we never meet the driver, and I don't know what the story was supposed to be here, but all of a sudden, cops are now chasing them through the desert, and this guy's driving as fast as he can. Hambone escapes. He runs through the desert. Hambone's closing in on his house in Los Angeles where he lives with Hillie. And meanwhile, Hillie, Lillian Gish, the acclaimed film star, is going to move in with Timothy Bottoms and the daughter of June Lockhart and Will Wheaton and their Atari and their Frogger game. So she's getting ready to leave the house just as he's running up. As she's leaving the neighborhood, she sees Hambone. They hug in the middle of the street as credits roll. I don't know what to say about this movie. If you remove the death of Camille, I like the movie a whole lot more. If you remove the whole thing with the escaped convicts, I guess the movie's better, but I think that scene and that whole sequence is kind of important. And Benji had come out just shortly before this, and Benji was very similar. It was about a couple kids being kidnapped. So that part I'm kind of more okay with than them just killing off Camille for no good reason. I love seeing the skipper. I think JSimpson is charming in this movie, and I enjoyed watching him. And I really, really enjoy seeing Lillian Gish. She lights up the screen. You would think she might just phone this in, and she does not. She's really determined in her scenes where she wants to see the dog. You believe in this character. I would have to say this is a cautious recommend. Let's go back to me in St. Louis.
Hey, I want to give a big shout out to everybody on Patreon. I appreciate you guys so much. I stole some brochures from the Visitor Center. I'm sending that out to all of the people that are at the $9 level. They also get the newsletter every month. For just $3, you can get a postcard from me to you. It might be from St. Louis. And you can sign up for free. Check out some extra videos. You can be like my dear friends who are at the $9 level, get their name read at the end of every video, and they are
Aaron Wester, Al, Archer, Cal and Monica, and Sue, Carson Loveridge, Chris, Dana Snyder, M, Jason Evans, Jason Yealy, Jarrett Rusky, Jamie and Tom, Jen, Matthew Chapin, Mike and Jess, my big brother Rob, Nick Roche, and Robert Berry.
Well, that's going to do it for this one. I'll see you next time.